All right, what's the difference between cheap and high-end fragrance? Now, this is an important topic that we need to get into. And you know that cheap fragrance often smells like air fresheners. There's often this synthetic smell. And so, we know there's a lot of department store scents that can smell very cheap. And a lot of celebrity scents have this problem too, because the cheap fragrances are often disappointments and they smell so good out of the bottle. But what you got to understand is a better scent has a better dry down. They put more energy into putting a definite calling card on the fragrance. Cheap scents tend to copy stuff. They tend to have a lot of citrus. They tend to have this kind of fresh but very boring smell to it. And what you need to know is, when you get into the niche fragrances, the notes and oils and components are amazing, and it never smells the same on two people. It always has its own calling card on your body, and so you end up with a unique result. And cheap fragrances, now let's talk about this. You can have scents like Le Male by Jean Paul Gaultier that smell cheap to a lot of people because it has that air freshener smell. And, that heavy vanilla and the florals, almost this unisex smell. But then you start to get into the scents like Abi Rohe. That will never smell cheap. It will always have a very elegant, drier smell to it. It's a very rich kind of medley, and you get that gourmandish feel with Abi Rohe that really makes it worthy of purchase. And then you get cheap scents like a lot of the $20, $30 scents, and they just smell like chemical. And the chemical smell is what you got to watch out for. And see, in the department store, you can also have cheap smelling scents too. Because the problem is a lot of fragrances will focus on top notes, and a cheap fragrance will not always keep all of its notes because you got to get it in a certain price range. You get what you pay for, and you start to get oils that will fall apart on the fragrance, and then it'll be like a building demolishing because it'll fall down like dominoes and every note is going to fall apart in your body or sour out. And cheap fragrances tend to focus more on the marketing and getting it out there. And they oftentimes have more watery smells to them. And they're often watered down, they don't last. And if they do, you often don't get what you want because it's a woody musk that is very boring with the worst type of musk in the world. And so this is where the cheap fragrances will often use synthetic musk. They'll use air freshener citrus. They'll have woodsy notes that are very predictable, like a very bland sandalwood. They may or may not have some patchouli or oak moss or other woodsy notes, but if they do, you don't even notice them. And that's one of the things about cheap fragrances. So like Paco Rabanne 1 million. Now, here's the thing about it. It smells cheap to a lot of people because it's very sweet and cloying to a lot of people, whereas Black XS smells the opposite. So, there's always the cheap smelling scent of every line that you just won't like. And cheap fragrances are oftentimes, they are disappointments because you think it's going to smell really good and then it falls apart when you put it on. So, hope this helps.